We're on? All right. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. I'd like to call the meeting to order. We'd like to start off with the pledge.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Before we go anywhere, at this time, we would like to offer a moment of silence for Millie Hinch, who recently passed, our former town clerk for many, many years. Thank you. And our current town clerk, did you want to say a few words on Millie's behalf?
Good evening, everyone. There is a quote by Thomas Hardy, and it says, "The perfect woman you see is a working woman, not an idler, not a fine lady, but one who uses her hands, head, and heart for the good of others." This is a perfect description of Mildred Millie Hinch. I was given the honor this evening of stating a few words to let everyone know about our resident friend and former town clerk, Millie Hinch. There are two parts to this I would like to reflect on. Part one, I'd like to give a little background along with the family's obituary. Mildred Millie Hinch was born at home in Gallatin, New York on August 3rd, 1930, to Lester and Mary Coons Funk. She had one brother, Lester Funk II, who predeceased her. Millie attended Pine Plains High School, where at the age of 15, she met the love of her life, Kenneth Hinch, whom she married in 1948. He predeceased her in 2008. Together, they shared 60 years of marriage and raised 3 children, Dora Hage and Peter of Pine Plains, Cindy Young and Bob of Pleasant Valley, and Kenneth Hinch Jr. and Kathy of Pleasant Valley. Millie was always active in her children's lives as a room mother, parent volunteer on field trips, PTA member, and president at Traver Road Elementary School. She served as a Girl Scout cookie chairwoman and assisted with brownies and Girl Scouts. She worked nights as a waitress for 6 years at the Country Tavern restaurant, which is now known as the Fireside Barbecue and Grill in Salt Point. Millie, along with her husband Ken, ran Ken's TV sales and service from 1965 to 1980. On January 1st, 1965, Millie was elected to the seat of town clerk for the town of Pleasant Valley, where she remained in that seat for the next 26 years until her retirement on December 31st, 1991. Her original town clerk's office was what is now known as the Pleasant Valley Bike Shop, where Ken's TV sales was until moving to the building we occupy now, known as Town Hall. As a town clerk, Millie was well known for her excellent and meticulous record keeping, being very active in the community and the government surplus food program for the seniors. Millie was well known for her role as scorekeeper at her husband Ken's softball league games in Poughkeepsie and Lakeland, Florida, where they wintered. She also sold Shackley, along with our friend and former supervisor, Penny Hickman. Millie was an active cheerleader for all of her children and grandchildren's sports games. She loved the New York Yankees and followed several teams in the NBA. Every day she looked forward to doing the daily jumble, playing board and card games. She adored all of her grandchildren and her great-grandchildren. Now I would like to reflect on my personal experience meeting Millie for the first time. I met Millie when I was first elected to the town clerk seat in 2018. I remember she came right into my office one day on her way to our senior program and walked right behind my counter. My deputy, not knowing who she was, stated to her that she was not allowed to come behind the counter, and she stated that no one was going to stop her. I started to laugh, knowing of her at that time, and she gave me a big hug and she said, "Welcome to the club." She told me if I ever needed anything to reach out to her at any time. I thanked her, I appreciated her kind words. Every Friday after that, when she was able to come to our senior program, she always made a point to stop by and say hi to me. On occasion, she would call me when she would hear rumors or told me to just hang, and she would call me when she heard rumors and told me to just hang tough and not to listen to any of it, but to follow my heart and gut instincts. I really appreciated her advice and encouragement. Mildred Millie Hinch, you approached life with courage, sacrifice, determination, commitment, toughness, guts, strength, and you were full of fire. You looked a challenge in the eye and gave it a wink. These qualities are to be admired. May you now rest in peace together with the love of your life, Ken, and you will be greatly missed. I am asking the town board tonight to make a motion on the floor to allow a blank page in the minutes in Millie's memory. Thank you.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you.
Nicely done.
Thank you.
And then you got to hurry up and do roll call.
Councilwoman Albrecht.
Here.
Councilman Mazzella.
Here.
Councilman O'Hanlon.
Here.
Councilman Reifenberg.
Here.
Supervisor Delvecchio.
Here.
Town Attorney Emily Svensson.
Here.
All present.
Thank you. Motion to adopt the agenda as is.
So moved.
Second.
I'd like to make a motion to amend the agenda to advertise for 2 new rec committee members and add it to under items for special consideration.
Certainly.
Second. Oh, for form.
I'm sorry.
Yes, for formality. Second.
Second. All in favor?
Aye.
Ties. Now all in favor of the agenda?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay. We have in our midst the receipt and acceptance of minutes for regular town board meeting, public hearing on 12/21/22, and special town board meeting 12/29/22. Do I hear a motion to accept?
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
All official correspondences are on file in the town clerk's office. And at this point in time, we have a special presentation. I'd like to call to the podium Kelly Rettel to Hardesty to make a special presentation.
We are all in luck because I hate to speak in public, so this will be short and sweet. My name is Kelly Rettel Hardesty, and I'm here on behalf of my sisters, my family. Earlier this week, we had donated a parcel to the town, and this is the funny part about working in a real estate company for as long as I have. Nothing has an address, they have nicknames, so I can't even tell you the address. It's referred to as the lot by the Stewart House. So I'm hoping that you will graciously accept our donation. I'm sure my parents would be tickled pink, and we're happy to do this. I'm hoping that we have a long working relationship and do more for the town of Pleasant Valley. And thank you all.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Was there anything else you wanted to say about anything else while you were here? I know you want to get out of there quick.
Like the Rettel Park that I'd love to get
Rettel Park?
working on. But yeah, the Rettel Park would be great to start moving on. That's been sitting there for a long time, and it would be, you know, I'd be happy to help, but it would be a wonderful thing to start to move on.
And I know you really want to get away from that podium, but we have a little something special we would like to do as well.
Would you like me to sing a song for you or
Yes, I
something?
would,
Okay.
that'd be great.
Come on, we'll do a duet.
Maybe after you hear
Oh,
this,
yes,
you might
absolutely.
feel like singing. At this time, we would like to present the Rettel family with a special plaque and proclamation in honor of Herb and Sue Ann Rettel, whereas within the recent passing of Herb and Sue Rettel, the Pleasant Valley community lost a wonderful couple whose generosity has benefited so many. And whereas Herb and Sue Ann played an important role in creating a vision for their community which they loved. And whereas Herb and Sue Ann made valuable contributions to the town of Pleasant Valley and their residents through their donations of office space, parkland, real estate, community events, and Pleasant Valley's 150-year, sesquicentennial, sesquicentennial, yeah.
Me selling outfits, right?
You don't say that one every day. Herb and Sue Ann serve as an example of achievement, leadership, community service, and dedication. And whereas it is important to honor those who give their name, talent, and resources for the betterment of their community. And now, therefore, it be resolved that the town board and the town clerk for the town of Pleasant Valley do hereby proclaim August 17th, 2023 as Herb and Sue Ann Rettel Day. And we encourage all residents of our town to join us in recognizing and supporting the kindness and generosity of Herb and Sue Ann Rettel.
Thank you. That's very kind. Thank you. Thank you.
And on behalf of the town board, thank you all very much.
On the business side of that, can I?
Yes, you want to do the business side? Sure.
Sure. Well, I don't want to take away from.
No, you could do the business side. Go right ahead.
So Warren let me know that he's been working with Frank Rettel to get all the paperwork together on this, and he'll have a resolution for the next meeting for you to officially accept the donation. He did want to ask if he could have your permission to do a title search just as a formality. It's $450. Is that okay?
I believe that's fine.
Yeah, I'll make a motion.
Second?
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay. This time we'd like to call to the podium Greg Bullner for a little update on some things, Salt Point Dam.
So just wanted to come tonight. The Salt Point Dam is a regulated dam, and as part of those regulations, the town has to certify each year that they acknowledge that they are the owner of the dam, that they have an emergency action plan, has been prepared for if the dam breaks, and that the certification is that someone does an annual inspection. I do that annual inspection. You're not, anyways. So basically, that's the form. It has to be signed and submitted to the state by the end of January of each year. And I prepared it. I just prepared one copy. Unfortunately, I'm working from home, so the printing was a challenge. But I sent it via email, and I can send additional.
Okay.
But that's all it really is. It's just a 2-page form. States the location of the dam, that inspection was done in August. Just wanted to point out, I did do the inspection. When I did the inspection in August, it was an extremely low flow, so I was able to, for the first time in the last however many years I've been doing the inspection, actually have a visual observation of the face of the dam. And there was no obvious indications of failure of the dam. It's actually a pretty low, the volume or the height of the dam on the water side is pretty low. So the depth of the water on the water side of the dam is pretty low, even though the dam drops about 5 to 8 feet. On the water side, it's probably only 3 or 4 feet deep at that. So I don't know if anybody has any questions. It involves the inspection of the dam and the bypass. And
I don't have any questions. It's pretty cut and dry to me. I'm going to yield to your expertise about the building
Okay.
I was going to say a few things, an update later on, but since you're here and you're,
Real quick point of order, can I just make a motion that we allow you to sign that?
motion made,
Second.
all in favor?
Aye.
Go ahead.
Thank you, Frank.
Talk about whatever you want.
I'd have forgotten about that. Yes, so we are working on the evaluation that we were authorized to do a couple meetings ago. We are working on that. As part of that, we're working on the pre-demolition plans. So we're proposing to have that report by the end of this month, be able to give that to the town, and then make a presentation in February to the town as to the particulars of the report itself. So give the town the report, have the town an opportunity to look at it, and then come in and I'll make a presentation. As far as the demolition goes, we're looking to be prepared to have it presented to the town in February to put it out to bid. That's our goal, is to be in a position to do that. So if there's anything at the building that needs to be removed by the town because it doesn't belong there, or I shouldn't say it doesn't belong there, but you don't want it to be demolished or removed as part of the contractor's contract, or anything that can be removed that's just loose and miscellaneous. It reduces the cost of the demolition. The idea is to get basically everything interior that can be removed that has no bearing on the proposed work that's being done. There's probably going to be, well, I shouldn't say probably, likely, whatever the word is, to be exterior demolition and things such as that, but we don't want to do any of that until we actually have a contractor on board, because you want to be able to move right through that into the construction. So the only demolition that we're really doing is going to be interior to the building, that basically guts the building, removes the interior walls, fixtures, such as that. So that's the plan.
So we should get everything out of there, is basically what
Yes.
you're saying.
Yes, so anything, I know that a couple of the rooms, there'd been some materials stored in there. There'd been some materials that had been taken down and just left in there. And then I think there may also be some storage of some boxes from the town that would all need to be removed, so that when the contractor comes in, they are free to remove anything that's there. Only other thing is while I'm here, the Helen Aldridge Park, we drilled the well before Christmas. We did a hydro flushing, I want to say. It's common technology that's used. It has no bearing or really relevance to the hydrofracking in the oil industry, so I just want to get that out there. Basically, they use water. It's a rock well. We did drill to about 600 feet. We didn't get the flows that we wanted to get. So then by hydrofracking, basically what they do is they pressurize the water in the well, and what that does is any formations or fractures in the rock, it expands those fractures. And based on the report from the contractor that did that, they had success in 4 different veins throughout the well. So we're hoping to have a successful pump test. That pump test is scheduled for the 17th, so next week. And we're looking for 5 to 15 gallons per minute. And so that's the plan.
5 to 15, right?
Yep, 5 to 15. I think that's all that I had, unless anybody has any questions.
What was the date?
The 17th, so next Tuesday.
Thank you, Greg.
Okay, thank you. Have a good evening.
Okay, at this time, I believe we have someone from the Recreation Committee to come up and give us a little update. Ms. Jean Curley?
I have a copy for all of you. Okay, my Jean Curley, recreation member. I live in Stream Lane. Climate Smart member and Repair Cafe coordinator. Anyway, this is a Recreation Committee report. Our last meeting was November 14th, 2022. We reviewed the specifics of the Recreation Master Plan, looking at each park and the recommendations for each. I would like to say that we have a wonderful Recreation Master Plan that was completed in November 2011, just 2 years after the town's comprehensive plan in 2009. Data from the latest census and surveys were used to prepare this plan. It is complete with recommendations, conceptual drawings, and maps of each park. It's really a beautiful plan, and it is available online and you can get there from the town's website. At the meeting, we discussed each park and the status of projects in progress or being considered. Bauer Park, electricity and composting bathroom. Katie Field, playground equipment. Helen Aldrich Park, water, bathrooms, and playground equipment. The water was the pump that Greg was just talking about. Rettle Park, Rettle Memorial Flower Garden, and community vegetable garden. Mill Park, vandalism, install front gutter, electric and lighting repair, and security cameras. There are other things that are being looked at and/or considered for various parks, but are on the back burner due to other priorities that must first happen, or funding is needed for perhaps to have these happen. But there are two other things that I would really like to speak to, which prompted me to get up here and talk about recreation. Two things that are happening this week in our town that I feel are very important. Number one, tomorrow evening, there is a community vegetable garden meeting to 6:30 to 8 at the library. Everyone is welcome to come, bring your ideas. This is our second meeting. We had probably 15, 16 people at the first one, and we hope to get more, because we've really publicized it at this meeting. And we hope to get this started, perhaps by this spring, to help the food pantry and food insecurity. The second thing is also happening this week, and it is the Repair Cafe. That's Saturday, right here at the town hall. The cafe is from 10 till 2. Registration and agreement with town house rules is required. We fix broken things for free, but donations are greatly appreciated. There is coffee and snacks for patrons, and everyone is invited. This is submitted by me.
Can,
Just take one of these and pass it, please.
do you have to register for the event tomorrow night, or can we just show up?
You just show up.
You can call the library and register, but if you walk in, we'll make you sign in. So
Okay.
they need to have an account of
Okay.
everybody that comes. But
Thank you.
everyone is welcome, and so please spread the word.
Thank you, Jean.
Community Garden and Repair Cafe. Thank you.
At this time, I'd like to make a motion to open the meeting to the public for agenda items only.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Agenda items only. If you'd like to speak.
Hi, Phil Apicino, Ravine Road. I have a question. I could speak about the construction for the new building? That was an agenda item, right?
Well, yeah, I guess, go ahead.
I'm a little bit confused on why we're piecemealing this and deciding to bid out the demo as one item, and I'm not
I
sure
don't think that's
why-
what he said. I don't think that's what he said. We're going to put it out to bid. This way it goes from demo right to construction.
I thought you were going to get a price just on the demo first.
That's not what he said. He said it was going to go right together. That's what I heard. That's what
I
he's
didn't
been
hear
saying.
it that way, but
Okay.
I'm just curious why we're bidding out the demo first and not the entire project, because you'll get a better you should get a better price with the demo and
Altogether.
everything in the construction.
I think that's the plan.
One other thing to add to that, have you considered at all putting an RFP out for a construction manager to give you a guaranteed max? I mean, right now, we have a budget which I think is extremely high, and I think if you go to a construction management firm, at least put out a RFP and get a guaranteed max, and that's it, it might save the taxpayers a lot of money. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else?
Gary Veeder, Salt Point Turnpike, Pleasant Valley. Just one item here. The changing the supervisor to part-time, I think that's well, how do I put this? I think it's going in the wrong direction. This level of government is the one where people know who's more directly, it's ground root government. If I want to come in and talk to the supervisor, I would hope that he would be there. We have spent many years, there were no hours specified when I was supervisor, and up until this year, John has been there every day, and it's worked out fine. I'm in often, and I see people come in and discuss things with them. I think that's important. If I come in and the office has a secretary or whatever title you give them, that isn't always the person they want to see and talk to. And I think that it's important to keep it as a full-time supervisor. And most recently, we haven't had never called it full-time, I guess. But there wasn't anybody in the office quite often on a number of occasions in prior years with different supervisors. So I just really believe it's an important thing for a town at a ground level government organization. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else want to get up and speak on agenda items?
Scott Cookingham, Fox Run. I just want to go out, say the same thing as Mr. Veeder said. I definitely don't think supervisor should be a part-time position. If any of us haven't seen that Pleasant Valley is growing, we all know the roads and everything around here, every time we turn around, it's getting more and more busy. So coming into here, like Mr. Veeder said, you should be able to, talk to your supervisor if you have a problem, be able to get, something to answer. I mean, it's the same thing with being in construction where going in for a permit and that you want to have somebody there 5 days a week. You don't want to be able to say, oh, on Wednesdays I can get an inspection, or, on Wednesday I have to make sure I get down to talk to the supervisor. It should be Monday through Friday. I come in here different times for different things, and I've seen, John here, I see Mrs. Albrecht here multiple times, and they're here 24/7, so I don't think being part-time is something that the town needs, especially with, how big we're growing faster. We've talked about the fire district, stuff like that, where we need to get paid stuff. If we're talking about everything growing bigger and bigger, I can't see how we would want something here running for the town to get smaller, especially since it's for the people. So I think the people should be able to, get answers, answered during the daytime, not have to, set their schedule to, get here what day is good for them, so thank you.
Just for the record, Scott, we're not here 24/7. I don't think I would be able to, I don't think I can handle that. I appreciate, well, you are right there. You're right there. You are right on that one. Anyone else? Oh, well, okay.
All right, I don't know.
You guys are very polite out there
I've
waiting for the
never
next
done this
person.
before, so I am Sue Bellevue, and I looked at the agenda, and it says Old Business Wigston Road. So I live on Wigston, and I'm just asking for an update. I was not able to make the last meeting because I was at work. So I'm just trying to get an idea of what's the next step, and how does the public, how do we voice our concerns?
Do you want to handle that?
Yeah, I think we're going to be having a discussion today among the board. So at the last meeting, there was a presentation. The applicant asked the board to vote to accept the application to start the process, not to actually make a decision. The board wanted to have a discussion today, and then pending the result of that discussion, that resolution may be on for the next meeting. So there won't be any action tonight. I think probably the best thing, since you're here, is wait and listen to what the board discusses.
Okay, perfect, thank you.
And also, too, we're discussing accepting the application going forward, which would mean that we would accept the application for, basically go to the planning board, for the planning board to make sense of what's going on and do all the evaluations and the seeker reviews and stuff like that. So that's what we would be accepting.
Okay,
And-
so from what I understand, they made an application to get it rezoned?
Yes, exactly.
Right.
Okay, and the discussion tonight will be whether or not to accept that application, to go forward, or deny it?
Well, no, it's, so not to approve the
different.
application itself, it's to
Okay.
allow the planning board to
Do their diligence.
investigate what the developer wants to do, and then bring the full plan to us, and then we would then vote again to either approve the rezoning application or deny it.
Okay.
Correct.
Okay.
Thank you so much.
All righty. Anyone else? Going once, twice? Not seeing anyone else, I move that we close the meeting to the public.
Second?
All in favor?
Aye.
All right, new business discussion. So last year, we started up with some subcommittees, and all I want to do is because they kind of got shifted around a little bit, basically due to a bunch of different reasons. So I just want to shore them up and see who wants to be where, once again. So the Finance Committee, I believe we have Councilwoman Albrecht and Councilwoman Reifenberg. Do you both want to retain that position? Okay, all right, that's fine by me. To Town Board, Town Hall Building Committee, myself and Councilman O'Halloran. Do you want to remain on that? I'm
Yes.
okay with mine. Water Committee, myself, and now has been shifted to Mr. Mazzella. Councilman Mazzella, you okay with that? Okay. Highway and Roads Committee, myself and Councilman O'Halloran. You still good with that?
I'm good.
Okay. IT Committee, Councilman Mazzella and Councilman Reifenberg, we're still good there?
Yep.
Rec Committee, myself and Councilman Albrecht, Councilwoman Albrecht. Mary, you still okay with that? Yes. Okay. Now, the only thing that we originally talked about, and it was a suggestion for each one of these committees, was to have somebody in the community with an expertise in that particular area. So, for instance, let's just say the Building Committee, and maybe it would be somebody, Phil, who would be a project manager from some other job, but wouldn't be involved in this one, would be a person we'd bring in to discuss a couple of things with and get their opinion on. So I highly suggest all the committees reach out to somebody. I think for the Finance Committee, that gentleman that was up here, Michael, he'd be a perfect person maybe to bring and include into that. So I think those would be good things to do. All right, so we're all pretty much set there. Okay. Update on the town hall, you heard it. Mr. Bollner says we got to clean up that mess, which is, well, we've already started a little process on, just to give you a little, since we've had the opportunity to have Pat Szynski, who's out with a minor injury, she's taken the opportunity to go through some of the records that we need to move, and she's checking them and moving them, which is a good
Can I ask, just to Phil's point, I know that was one of my concerns maybe a month and a half ago or 2 months ago when Greg was here. He had expressed, I think, the idea of starting the demo and then later on bringing in somebody. And tonight, to me, I kind of got the same feeling as we'll put this out to bid for the demo portion in February and then start it so we're prepared. But to Phil's point and your point is, can we just double check and make sure that
Yeah.
we are thinking of maybe just doing it all together? Because like he was saying, he's thinking next, not this spring, the following spring, we might get a good deal on a contractor who wants to put their people to work over the winter demoing and roll right into the project.
Right.
I kind of got the idea that, like kind of Phil was saying, is that he's thinking we'll start the demo before, because we're not ready to put this out to bid, and he's saying putting this out to bid in February, so.
He wants to finish the evaluation of the tests that were done, and probably put it right out to bid as soon as that's done, which will probably be the end of this month.
But that's what I'm saying, we're not
And
even.
it'll be a combination of everything altogether.
We don't have construction drawings, we don't have any of that stuff. This is not going out to bid in February. I think he's talking about sending the demo portion of it out. We're far from.
We'll
putting this
clarify
out.
it tomorrow, but I'm
Thank you.
pretty sure he's wants to do the whole thing in one company. What I do know is that we do have a lot of storage, loose ends up there that need to be cleaned up, and we can do that pretty much on our own. So,
Can you please get an update and send it to the board, please?
Yep.
Thank you.
Can I ask the question of what are we gonna, I get, and I like some of the ideas for some of the plans that we've seen. I think there's room for criticism, and there's a lot of elbow grease to be put into them, but my question is, what are we gonna do with this building once we're up there?
well, that would be up to the board of that time. If it's this board, they can decide whether to sell this building, if that's advantageous to the town, keep this building, if that's advantageous to this town. At that point in time, that would probably be when we're probably moving and actually taking office by office, I think that really needs to be discussed at that point in time. I don't think
I
we
guess
can
my question
actually
is-
get rid of it before.
Well, so you just mentioned that it might be advantageous for the town to keep it, but if everything that we've learned over everything I've learned since being a town board member is that we need to get out of here, why would we ever keep this building? Is my question. Because, and most notably, residents have approached me recently saying that that's actually something that the board is actually thinking about, and I have never heard that before. So I would love to know what words have been, or thoughts have been put in my head. So what I'm saying is, why would we keep this building? I just want to get it out there that like, if we're renovating that and the grant that we got is to get us out of this floodplain, why would we keep this building?
Sell it. At that point in time, that board could make that determination at that time.
I'm just asking because recently people have said the town board thinking about keeping that building, and it's never been a conversation we've had.
We haven't had the conversation.
So that's what I mean. So I'm just asking. Okay. So thank you. You answered my question.
Okay?
Can I ask, just a follow-up, not to that, but I had also brought up, I think it was the last time Greg was here, the 2,500 square foot of open space on the second floor, potentially being looked in for the recreation, for the fact that we pay hundreds of dollars up at Helen Aldridge for that building and whatnot. Has the committee looked into the feasibility of moving recreation to that area in the building, since we're going to have to maintain it, we're going to have to heat it, we're going to have to clean it? Has it been looked into since that meeting, or?
Well, that was the meeting, I was not here, that you brought that up, I believe, right? And we have not discussed new plans. They have not been drawn up from the engineer at all, including that just yet. He wanted to wait till this next piece and then go from there. So when he's ready with that, he'll probably present it.
Okay, and he's telling you that we're going out to bid in February?
Look, I'm going by what that gentleman says, okay?
Okay.
And if he believes that we're gonna go out and bid by February, we're going to bid on February. Any further questions on that?
We should make sure that we have a plan in place for the funding if we're going to start thinking about putting anything out to bid, whether it's
Correct.
partial or not. So, yeah.
All right. So the next piece, did we want to take that to,
Did you want to discuss? I don't know, it says Councilman Reifenberg.
yeah, didn't you want to take that into executive session?
Probably.
Yeah. Okay.
Your name is on it.
Yeah, so we advertised for an alternate for the planning board for 2 of them. It closed, and Phil Appuccino expressed his interest. He's interviewed in the past, so we prepared a resolution to appoint Phil to the planning board this evening as an alternate.
So there's just a couple of questions about that. I would like to move that to executive session if we can.
Well, when we get to the resolution,
Yeah,
you have your
okay.
right to table it if you want.
All right. Permission to advertise for alternate planning board member, town board, town clerk. So I believe there's another planning board seat, correct? I don't know why that's there.
So there's 2 openings and only 1 person, so we need to give her permission
Right,
to
to advertise, to
re-advertise.
re-advertise, okay.
I'll make a motion to allow the town clerk to advertise for an alternate planning board member.
Second, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Changes to the rules of the town board, Councilman Reifenberg.
Yes, so we made big progress by getting these initial rules in, and it kind of tightened everything up, so we didn't have the last-minute changes. But there's some things, I was going through it, kind of the reorg meeting kind of forced me to look at it again, and there's some things that I think we should probably look at changing. One of them is, let me just find it here. Do you guys have copies? Yeah, section 3, which is on page 3. If you look down at section 11 and 12 under there. So 11 and 12, it says no later than 2 business days prior to a scheduled regular town board meeting, the town clerk shall, by mail, email, fax, or personal delivery, provide copies of the agenda. Basically, it's saying the town clerk is supposed to give us the packet, and then 12 is actually saying for a special town board meeting, the town clerk's giving the packet, which kind of contradicts what we actually do right now, and it also contradicts number 4. So we need to potentially change that. And then while we're on section 3, number 1 there, the agenda shall be prepared by the supervisor. Sorry, I'm just looking at my notes.
Where is this?
It's number 1 on the same page up there at the top.
Right?
So we've had some confusion in the last couple meetings of what it means by prepared by the supervisor. So the rules are, I mean, it goes pretty in-depth of the process of adding items to the agenda, when the supervisor can pull items from the agenda without talking to a town board member who added it and whatnot. There's been some confusion over the last couple of meetings where things have been asked to be on the agenda and they've been left off the agenda. So I would like to figure out a word that, puts it, it explains basically that the supervisor's in charge of putting the agenda together, but as long as the rules are followed, can't hold an item off the agenda just because they feel like it shouldn't be on there, as long as everything's followed. So I don't know how we change that.
So the only one account that I have said no to so far since this board was an update for the building, and it was really nothing to give you unless I had Mr. Bollner who was planning on giving it anyway. So there was no new information, so there was no point in having
So
it.
there is also the ambulance contract as well. But, for example, the building, it had been over a month since we had the last update, and I wanted to follow up. It was 2 meetings ago. I wanted to ask follow-up questions about my concerns about recreation being potentially moved in there. So for me, if I followed, it wasn't really looking for specifically an update from you. It was to continue the conversation to make sure we were moving ahead. And I feel like one person on the board should not be able to hold a discussion for a multi-million-dollar project from happening. Because
No one was holding it up, not happening. there was nothing new to be said.
For you,
Simple.
but
And
for
that we
the
had
other
a
board
very
members-
long agenda, and it is the supervisor's agenda to put together.
So that,
Okay.
so I'll be
And that's the
making
way the rules have been written, and that's what I've been following. And quite frankly, we had an extremely long meeting, and the reason why those things were not necessary to be on there was because there was nothing new to be said.
So I'm going to be making, I'll have an update for that to clarify that a little bit more at the next meeting.
Okay, we'll
My
have to
personal
discuss it.
opinion is that something like that, if board members feel like we should discuss stuff, it shouldn't be to one person to stop that. But number 4, on the same thing, it has the town board confidential secretary. So we need to make a decision if it's going to stay the town board confidential secretary, which isn't technically a position anymore in the town. So that needs to either be changed to the
Town clerk? or-
town clerk or the secretary to the supervisor. And then the other items I talked about have to be changed too. And then, so there's that. And the other thing, so basically, the point of this today is those are my concerns of what I'd like to see changed. But it's also for you guys to also look at it and decide, and I'll make whatever edits you want, and we could talk about it at the next meeting. But that's what I have, if anybody else has anything else.
Anyone else on the rules? Moving on. Okay, so changing supervisor from full-time to part-time, starting in 2024. Councilman Reifenberg.
Yeah, so, just to clarify, I went to the supervisor before putting this on the agenda and talked about it. And this has nothing to do with the current supervisor, the past supervisors, nothing like that. The last time we spoke a week ago, it seemed like we were all kind of on the same page about this. But it basically the reason why I'm bringing it up is if you look at other towns that are the same size as us, so Beekman, Pauling, and then you look at other towns like Wappingers, Hyde Park, and you start looking at the makeup of the way they operate. This town has always had a part-time supervisor up until, I don't know,
2016?
20, sure.
Ish?
And then we became they created the full-time supervisor's position, which now we have a full-time supervisor and a full-time secretary to the supervisor that we've created. So I understand the growth of the town. I'm not saying, if you look at the next one, it's creating a legislative aid position, and it's kind of maybe getting rid of the title of secretary to the supervisor and creating a full-time, 35 hours a week with full benefits for somebody. This board has had many, many conversations about human resource issues. So we really have to rethink how we structure the town, because as taxpayers, we're either going to stay with what we have and add an HR person on top of it that we're going to pay for, or we have to rethink what we have going on right now. And when you compare us to other towns, I get it, the town's growing. The census is actually going backwards. We're not.
Yeah, I was going to
we're
say,
not
the census-
actually.
the census numbers are less.
We're not actually growing, but I'll give you some examples. The town of Pauling is 8,000 people, Beekman's 14,000 people. They both have part-time supervisors. We are running as if we're a town like Wappingers, East Fishkill, town of Hyde Park, which are much, much bigger towns, because we now do have a full-time supervisor and a full-time secretary. And they're both full benefits, full medical. So I just think it's something that we should start the conversation earlier than later, just for the fact that if it's something the board wants to do, I think it's important that people that are potentially looking at maybe being the supervisor in 2024 or other people, they know what we're thinking. So we're not in the situation where the highway superintendent or whatever happened back then. I just think it's something that we need to think outside the box and maybe pursue or think about or discuss. And I know you had talked to the town of Pauling and really dug in with them. They kind of have the same setup.
I've spoken to a couple people. I'm not the way we have ours structured is close already. And let's be clear about the secretary. She's really the board secretary, just not secretary to the supervisor. But we did that because that was the only title available. I've talked with a couple. Some people like it, some people don't. It's still the jury's out. I'm not against the idea, but I think being in this position, seeing it from part-time to full-time, it is something that is more than part-time. So we'd have to really structure how the workload would go.
Yeah, and I think
It's a work it would be a
Yeah.
thought process in progress. It's not something that I've had time to really sit and chew on too much. And
Yeah, and I think that's kind of the thought process, is just, let's think about it and see, really digest this. And listen, we're realizing that people want to come here, and, before this was a full-time position, you would come here and the office would be empty and there wouldn't be anybody there. We understand that, I understand that people want somebody to be here, and I think that's why we're thinking, okay, well, we'll still have a legislative aide who can take a lot of the stuff that you're trying to do that really, should you be doing, I think we have potential to maybe even save some money and provide a better service to the town and the taxpayers by doing this. Because instead of creating another position for HR, we can kind of cover it all together. So I just wanted to get ideas from the rest of the board members, if it's something we should look into more, or have the attorneys look into, or that's all this is for tonight.
I think it's good for discussion, no doubt. And I guess also going with the next one, creative legislative.
Yeah,
aid
so it's all
position.
together.
It's all together. They kind of sister each other, or connected. Okay, anyone else want to add to that at all, or? No, okay. Number 8, amend resolution number 103, 2023, the holiday schedule. We made one little change, I believe, the Juneteenth was incorrect. So,
I'll make a motion that we amend Town Board Resolution 103, 2023 to show Juneteenth on June 19th.
I second over here. All, on any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
It was minor. A minor correction, okay. And also another minor correction, amending resolution number 101, 2023, establishment of town board meeting schedule for 2023. From,
It's up on the top there.
oh, it's up here.
Oh, we're just,
I just moved it.
is the,
Okay, same one. So I make a motion that we amend resolution 101, 2023.
second.
All in favor?
Aye.
I mean, it's just a minor
Yeah, I see it.
scheduling change. Okay. And procurement policy, town attorney. Emily, you're on.
So, Mary, you're welcome to jump in here, because I know you did the work. I just wanted to move it forward. So, okay. So the town's procurement policy, what I handed out to all of you is two things that I stapled together. One is, oh, I'm sorry, yeah. One is the, a current procurement policy, which is the second thing in the packet. And the first thing is a new draft that Councilwoman Albrecht worked up. And I just wanted to discuss this a little bit with all of you and get your input, and then I can do some wordsmithing on it and bring it back. So I think the main goals here, one is to clarify things that have been unclear, and then the other is to increase some of the amounts that cause the thresholds for different types of quotes, just because things cost more than they used to. So I guess the first thing to look at is the amounts. So the state law requires a formal bid for purchases over 20,000 or public works contracts over 35,000. But under those numbers, it's up to the town to decide how it wants to carry out procurement. So you'll see the old policy for purchases, we had a threshold at 2,000, 4,000, 6,000, and then everything from 6 to 20 was in one category. And I think the new version breaks that into fewer categories and kind of expands them upwards a little, which I
Yeah.
think makes sense given, you know, some of the costs of things. And then likewise with the public works contracts. So just to, I just wanted to open a little discussion about how you want to have these purchases documented. So we have different options would be doing an oral request for the goods, which would be where you call, you know, a couple different contractors and ask for quotes. We've had some difficulty there where they weren't necessarily all asked for the exact same thing, and that's caused an issue. So, you know, the written RFP, it doesn't have to be like a formal RFP, but just a written request could be helpful to make sure you're comparing apples to apples. So, I guess I was wondering if you wanted to have a written, something written below 7,500, or if you think this is,
Well, I guess I like the intent because I like the fact that it empowers whomever the purchaser is, right, to spend, to, you know, figure it out without needing to jump through the hoops. But I also understand the conundrum of, so maybe if we just write a written request for goods and not necessarily a written RFP, like just.
yeah, it could be, we could make a form that's just, you know, a
Right.
one-pager that's
Okay,
just.
like a request for
just
goods form, yeah.
Yeah, and it doesn't have to come, well, that's the other thing I wanted to ask you is in which circumstances you want the purchaser to come to the board first, versus just going out and getting the quotes.
Well, let's go with a couple recent emergencies that we've had to do. I think one of the most confusing parts of that whole thing wasn't so much the amount of money. I think we all had a good idea as where we had to go out for an RFP and where we had to go just get quotes. I think running off, we're having one person go to get a quote and another person go get a quote. The description of that quote is 3 different directions, and that's why they didn't come out the same.
Yeah.
So I think it should be, you should have here, at least in it somewhere, that one person goes and gets the 3 quotes. So in other words, let's say it's an IT thing. Like I said, I'm not an IT guy. I wouldn't know what a good quote is. And we give Frank the lead on it, let's say, because he's on the IT subcommittee. It should be where the expertise lies, I think, more so than supposedly just like, all right, I know an IT guy, and he knows an IT guy, and everyone goes and gets a quote, and it has nothing to do with what we're talking about, or it's all over the place. I think that was the biggest confusion before. I'd just like to see something like that in there.
Yeah, and I like the written portion of it. Even with the gutters, it was only me doing it, but even with just me doing it, one person wanted to put certain things on the bottom when the other person wasn't, so we
Right.
never get an apples to apples. So
Right.
I literally had to write out an email and say, this is exactly what we're looking for, no less, no more. And they were able to, you know,
But I think
get
it's
it close, but when you have 10 people
Right.
working on it, it's.
But I think it's important, though, you said, I'll take the lead on it, you got it, go get it. We identified the problem, that wasn't the issue. Michael got the quotes, they were done, and that was it. So it wasn't as much confusion as per se the furnace that we had.
Right.
Which was, you know, this one's quote and that one's quote. So I think we should have one person on one spearhead or one lead person.
Yeah, that makes sense. I
Obtain it.
mean, even an email could be a written request, right? Because
Yeah.
it's, at least it's in writing, and
Yeah.
it's the same thing to everyone. Okay, so we can clarify that.
Oral's not good. It should be written. In other words, if something breaks, I think, let's say these speakers break. We want new PA speakers for this room. It's to handle X amount of people. It's got to be written out in that fashion. We have this kind of amplifier. We need something that goes along with that. You put it out, you write it out that way, this way. Everybody looks at it and says, okay, that's the prices I'm going to give you.
So then you want to change that to say written request and then take oral slash.
Well, it's up to you. If that, yeah, that's what I think we're discussing, but it's up to you.
We can still have a problem with, sorry. We could still have an issue with this, even with the written, if everybody just understands that one person needs to get the same thing from everybody. I think that's where it's gone haywire a couple of times. But at least it's saying written request is a start. That's
Okay.
a good thing.
That sounds good. And then I was just looking at Rhinebeck's, which is very similar to this. They have, both for the 2,000 to 5,000 and then the 5,000 and up, they have, you get the quotes after having authorization from the town board. Do you want that? Or, I mean, I'm not sure it's really necessary, but maybe over the 7,500.
Yeah, I would say maybe over 7,500 for that, but not necessarily, like if, I mean,
How did you write that?
If it's an emergency, I think we can't, sometimes we can't wait for, I mean,
Yeah.
like
No,
an
I
emergency, I
understand
let
that,
everybody
but-
know something broke.
There's a provision for emergencies, but as a general matter, if it's not an emergency.
yeah, that makes sense. I would, yeah. I mean,
It says that the purchaser gets quotes after obtaining authorization from the town board.
yeah.
Does it, I feel like if it doesn't require like an RFP where we have to spend money having you guys write it up for us, then I mean, if they have money in their budget, like if
Right.
planning and zoning wanted to do whatever and they had money for it, and
Go
they
get
don't
the
need an
quotes.
RFP, why,
Right,
you know what I mean? Which this would be 7,500 would be the threshold.
right, so that's what, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I think everything in here assumes there's money allocated for that thing in the budget. If there isn't, then they have to come to the town board first anyway. So that, yeah. So if you don't want that, I think that was always a little unclear in the current policy. So I just want to make it clear one way or the other.
Okay.
Gotcha.
Okay. All right. Anything else that jumps out at you, or you can email me afterwards, but I'll take these comments and prepare a draft for you to
Sweet.
consider.
Thank you, Emily.
Yep.
Okay. New business resolutions. So this is the resolution 147, 2023, appointment of alternate member to the planning board.
So moved.
Second.
Discussion, I would like to move this to executive session before we act on it.
Are you making a motion?
I make a motion, we move it to executive session.
I'll second that.
In favor?
So you're tabling it, right?
We're
That's
just
what you're
tabling it
doing?
until,
Okay.
yeah. Okay. Town Board Resolution 148, 2023, reappointment of zoning board appeals member. This is, I should read this one, right? I don't have to, we all read it, we know who the person is, right?
Well, so I was gonna make mention that, instead of reading the resolution, read the title and then surmise what it is, like we're reappointing,
Oh, you
you know what I
got it.
mean? Like, instead, don't read it verbatim, just give them
I mean, this is
Cliff
short
Notes.
enough, I could do it, it's not a big deal, but,
Give them the Cliff Notes.
that's fine. Listen, this is all new territory to me. I'm very happy to oblige. So this is to appoint back onto the Board of Appeals. John Dunn has expressed an interest once again to remain on the Board of Appeals. I make a motion to accept him back on.
Second?
Any
I'm gonna-
discussion?
Yep, I'm gonna make a motion, the same motion you just made for the previous one. Let's move this to executive session, and then we'll talk about, we can vote on it after.
Okay.
We need to, we need a second. If I'm-
Mary seconded.
All in favor?
Aye.
And that would go for this one as well, so,
Yeah, I'll make a motion, we table this one until after our executive session.
do I hear a second? Second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Town Board Resolution 149, 2022, the waiving of the Hometown Heroes Project fees for families of service members killed in action. I think this is a wonderful resolution, and for the Hometown Heroes, we already discussed this.
Yep, I'll make a motion.
Yep.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
And Town Board Resolution 150, 2023, amending provisions of the Town of Pleasant Valley Employee Handbook.
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay. Items for special consideration.
Yeah, I'll make a motion to allow discussion for advertising for 2 rec committee positions onto the agenda.
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
So,
I think we'll just make a motion to allow the town clerk to advertise for
I
the
think
2
that's
vacant,
the-
right?
that's
That's the
the
whole purpose,
discussion,
right?
right?
Yeah, that's it. So I'll make a motion to allow the town clerk to advertise for the 2 vacant rec committee seats.
second, all in favor?
Aye.
So go ahead. I don't think you need our approval for that, Sandy.
What's that? I'm sorry.
She wants to use her, my rec email list, her email blast.
Oh, yeah. Okay. Old business discussion, Indoor Pickleball League update, Recreation Director.
Yeah.
Good.
I'm signing up as soon as I go home.
Well, I got news for you. You're out of session 1 because of...
That's fine. I don't think I can make it this Friday anyway.
So, that's what I was going to say. We actually have 19 people signed up for the league, which will run through the end of March. And the first match is on this Friday night, and we're sold out. So there's plenty of room on the other ones. It's a total of hopefully 10 different matches, give or take. You know, if we have a snow day, we have a little bit of room. So it's we've been getting very good feedback. Community is excited. So we're hoping it takes off, and then we're hoping we'll do it in the spring outside up at the tennis courts with the new lines there. So.
Okay, great. Sandy, I think that was the shortest one you've ever done up there.
Yeah. Can't wait.
Credit card acceptance update. Is this still in holding?
Do you have an update for that?
No, the accounts were open, that was necessary, and I called Tom last week in the middle of the week. That thing, I hate it with a passion. I called him in the middle of last week, and I haven't heard back from him yet. So, but he was going to get the correct number of, what were they called? The ACH, yeah, for the ACH and stuff, he was gonna get the correct number. So, they're working on it.
Okay. Security at parks. I've dubbed this lights, camera, action, because those are the 3 things that really going to make this somewhat successful. Lights being, there is a belief that if you have not just the lights that we have already there in the park, but like those motion detector lights that come on and frighten people, they're the biggest deterrent, according to every security company there is. Cameras, I already spoke with one of the people, Superior, came out and took a look, and they didn't write anything up yet as far as how much it costs, but they made a good assessment of where we need on the mill site cameras, where they would be directed, how far the resolution, all that stuff is. And then the action piece would be the legal piece, because if we get someone on camera, we catch the lights go on, the camera catches them, and there's nothing to really, there's no action to take legally, what was the point? You know, there's no reason for all that. So I'm gonna, again, just yield that to you guys to come up with whatever gives it teeth whatever that is. I don't care if it's a young person who breaks a window, like in my day, you broke a window, your father paid for it, and then you worked it off with your allowance. That's how it went. And that's somehow, how you legally write that up? Get it.
Can,
Anyone want to?
yeah, just the, light-
By the way, I'm looking for a partner on this to help with getting some of these things too, if anyone would like to help. Anybody, I don't care.
Sure.
I can do that.
I'll take 3 partners, I don't
Okay.
care. I mean, but I don't
It'll
know
get
if we
done
can-
3 times quicker.
Okay.
The mill site at night, I've noticed that the lights are out.
Yeah,
Is that being looked into, or?
that, we're gonna, looking into with changing the light bulbs over to more climate-smart friendly lights.
But is there electrical problem, or?
There
Or we
was
just
some,
turned them off?
I was gonna ask the company, the electric company, when they come up to see where they wanna have the motion detector lights, which are fairly inexpensive, to come take a look at those. So, yes, there are a lot of them out.
Well, we have LED lights out now that are literally, they're smart lights, and they won't come on at all until dusk.
Right.
And then they will come on automatically with any motion, and you don't need any special circuits. You can literally just screw them into any light socket.
Yep.
And they're not that expensive anymore, so there's no reason not to get them in there ASAP.
Right. So that's gonna be the easiest part of this. And then, Wigston, I'm sorry, did anyone else want to speak on the security of the parks? And that's just, we're just talking right now the mill site, because that was the most damaged recently, but I think all of our parks should be addressed this way as well when we get, to each one of them. Anyone else? Wigston Road rezoning.
So at the last meeting, we had a presentation by the applicant and a lot of useful comments from the public. So to summarize, the applicant who owns the parcel on Wigston Road wants to request a rezoning from the town board to allow a multifamily and more dense development on that parcel rather than single-family homes. What they're requesting is for the town board to begin the process. And what would happen, what we're intending to put on the agenda for next meeting is a resolution just to begin the process, which would mean to refer the entire application over to the planning board for them to conduct the environmental review. A lot of environmental and community character type issues were raised, and those are the things that the planning board would gather more information on. Through that process, the proposal is really conceptual at this time, and through that process, it could change. And then, if depending on what the planning board finds, it would come back to the town board, and then ultimately, the town board would decide whether or not to adopt the rezoning, which may be different at that point than what's being requested right now. So, this is because it's a zoning change, the town board is not obligated to make that change. And so it's really the town board's choice at any point. You can go ahead and refer it to the planning board and then go through that process. And then when it comes back, if you don't believe that it's right for the town and it doesn't comply with the comprehensive plan, then, you wouldn't adopt it at that point. So, right now, I just thought, based on the last meeting, you might want to have some preliminary discussion and give me guidance about what to put in that resolution for the next meeting. I would assume that it would be a resolution to accept the application, not approve it, just accept the application, and to circulate to see who would be the lead agency for the environmental review, which would probably be the planning board, since they do that more regularly and have the experts to help them with that. So I'll just open that up to the board.
Yeah, just to clarify, so basically next meeting, we're gonna have a resolution to accept it and move it on to start the seeker process. As a town board, if that's to look at the environmental impacts of the rezoning. If we as a town board feel that just the residents of our town don't want apartments on that parcel, I mean, can we just say, no, let's not waste anybody's time, or do we have to send it to the planning board?
You can, you don't have to accept it, and you don't have to accept the application and move it forward. You know, I would add that there's always going to be concerns about any change, and, you know, that's not necessarily the measure of whether it's the right thing for the town or not, but if in your judgment it's not the right thing for the town, you know, that's the board's choice.
Okay, thank you.
And I just will mention too that Councilwoman Albrecht is recused on this, right? So,
Yeah.
yeah, you're hanging over there. Got it. Just for everyone's understanding.
Let me ask this question. So while, let's say we accept the application and move it to the planning board, while it's there, people have an opportunity to express their interest at that point in time at the planning board meetings, correct?
The planning board would have hearings on the, on their consideration of the environmental review, and then, you know, even if it gets to the point of coming back to the town board, then the town board would have another hearing, and then after that, there would be another hearing on the actual project, so there's lots of public input.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Okay. Anyone else?
So we'll prepare that resolution.
We'll prepare a resolution for next week, next meeting, rather, I'm sorry.
I'm just a little curious now. Could this, let's suppose it does, the application is approved by the board, it goes to the planning board. Is this something that they could circulate petitions on and push to permissive referendum?
Zoning is not typically subject to referendum.
Okay. Thank you.
Anyone else? Okay, moving on. At this point in time, I move that we open the meeting to the public, one time only, and you can talk about just about anything.
Second?
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
It's me again. So who pays for this environmental review before it goes to the zoning?
It's usually the
The applicant.
applicant.
The applicant will pay for all
Yeah,
the
they
fees?
establish an escrow well, they will produce a lot of the studies themselves, and then they establish an escrow to pay for the town's expenses with reviewing it.
Okay, so they are paying for the studies. Do they get to choose who's doing the studies? I mean, who governs who's actually
Excuse
doing
me one
the
sec.
studies?
Guys, we got to keep the talking down.
I'm sorry, I just want to make sure that it's a fair study. I think that, I'm glad that they're paying for it, but they get to choose who does the study?
So it's a complicated process. So there, depending on, the planning board would decide which studies are needed, and then the applicant typically actually produces the studies, but then the planning board can hire its own experts to review those studies, and that is also paid for by the applicant through, the applicant puts money in escrow for the town to use to pay its own experts to review the studies.
Okay.
Yeah.
And once these studies are done, are they published anywhere, or
Yep.
are they only here for us to see?
Oh, are they like online? I don't know that they're online. I think you'd have to come in and ask to look at them.
Okay,
Yeah,
thank you.
yep.
I'm sorry, ma'am, what's your name again?
Sue Bellevue. Thank you. Thanks.
Greg Straley, Pleasant Valley. As all you board are sitting up there, if yous accept this application, obviously you're in favor for it, because you wouldn't let it go to the planning board if you weren't. So, my thing is that's what we're looking at back there, because you have a right to refuse that and not even let it go any farther. And here's what's gonna happen next. Peckham is gonna be right behind them once the zoning gets changed. And then they are gonna want their zoning changed to go and mine on the other property. Because they're gonna say, well, you let him do it, and how are you gonna stop him? What's that, John?
I think those are individual cases. Sorry.
No, they're not.
Yeah.
You're changing the
I'm
zoning.
not going to get into an argument with you. You made your statement. Yes or no?
What's that?
Do you have any more?
Yes.
Okay.
On December 21st, the lawyer stated that 410 North Avenue is not in compliance with the complaints, and nothing has been done. And Peckham is tearing the blacktop plant apart right now up there. There's cranes up there removing part of the blacktop plant. That went through the planning board to get that approval on that site up there. And now they're going tearing stuff apart. That needs to go back in front of the planning board. They need a permit to do that. That's bolted to a foundation. So I don't understand why no one's looking at this and why no one is stopping them from starting at 4:30 in the morning. It's a state law. I mean, come on.
Thank you.
Hello again. Jean Curley, Stream Lane. I just, in talking about the new building, 1903, with the storms that are hitting the West Coast, the snow that hit New York State, whatnot, I don't know that there are any provisions in the plan as it's being drawn up by the engineers for emergency provisions for people that are have 10 feet of snow, don't have electricity, heat, and I'm concerned that we have enough space up there that there should be some sort of plan in place that it can be used, and it's not just a room like this, because this wouldn't do in that kind of an emergency. I think that if you've got the space, that we should be really looking at that as something that can be closed off. I don't know whether you do, closing, the things that divide up rooms or whatever, but I'm just saying, I think that it needs to be, climate change is here, and we only are going to deal with it, and we have the opportunity to deal with it up there. So I just wanted to put that out.
Thank you. Anyone else?
Jean, before you go, the town does have an emergency plan. The town has an emergency plan on file. Maybe the time would be to look at that now and just take a look and make sure. Yeah.
That's right. That was a great walk in history, I'll tell you that.
Carol Campbell, 122 Marshall. I have a few things to talk about. Changing from a full-time supervisor to a part-time supervisor. Having been supervisor in the town, I think I can talk a little bit about what is required for this position. I don't have, I'm on the fence both ways at the moment. However, my questions are, what would the town consider a full-time supervisor? The town hall is open 9 to 4 Monday through Thursday and 9 to 1 on Friday, which is 32 hours a week. So I know, and John can attest to this, that when you're supervisor, you're here. Even if you want to be off, you're here. I don't believe that the town should be considering what is considered in town a part-time person, and that would be 20 hours a week. So, you know, I would like to know, when you're looking at this, what hours do you propose the supervisor to work? And, you know, we already have full-time employees, so, you know, what would that be? You know, in keeping with that, talking about the legislative aid, when I was here as supervisor in 2014, I proposed to the board that we have a legislative aid. At the time, there was one in Pauling, and it worked out very well. And I think it's a great idea. I think it's a great idea whether the town decides to reduce the supervisor's hours, not consider it full-time versus part-time. I would caution, however, that the legislative aid not be looked on as somebody bigger and having more hours than the supervisor. The town elects the supervisor, and the laws are very specific in the powers of the supervisor. So therefore, my questions have to do with how many hours, and, you know, with the legislative aid, I wouldn't want them to have more powers. Sorry, I got notes on different pages here about different things. Just one note to Supervisor Delvecchio. I did sit home and watch the reorg meeting, and I have one critique, and that is when you're reading into the record a resolution, you don't have to read the resolution, but it would be helpful to the people watching if you at least read the title.
But that's what I did.
On some of them, you didn't near the end, and I just think it's easier if you're watching from home that.
To be honest, Carol, I was so excited I didn't have to read all those
I know
things.
you were.
I may have left those titles off, a very good possibility, but
I could actually see you with 1 foot
I was,
ready to go. Wixton Road rezoning. I think that the board, before they send this down to the planning board, should do a straw poll so that the residents can see where the 4 board members are that are going to vote on this. You know, we've had things here in the town that, you know, we're a small town, we try to save money. I wouldn't want to see this application be passed on to the planning board when it can be stopped at the town board level. I also feel that it would be unfair to the applicant to do that, because the applicant will be spending a lot of money to come to more of a drawing of what they need to do along with environmental work. And I would ask that they do a full EIS. But that's just my concern. I think that it's not fair to the residents. The town board should have a position on this. We have a zoning ordinance in town. It doesn't fit on our ordinance, and everything that would come along with it, I think is wrong. It's just wrong for the town. The other thing is, while I'm here, you made a motion to table the zoning board chair appointment, the chair at this time. It's not about that.
Okay.
Let me just finish, okay? It's about Robert's Rules of Order. You just tabled a resolution that was already tabled. Therefore, I need you,
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
right,
that's just a point of reference.
Yeah, no, thank you. Yeah, we didn't have to table it.
it was already tabled.
Yeah.
Right.
It was already tabled. And I think that's all I have. Thank you.
Thank you. Go ahead, Jim.
John Dunn, Netherwood Road, probably on the ZBA. I just want to know, am I going to be invited into this executive session, or am I not?
You tabled it.
I did table it, so I think the board needs to have a brief conversation without you, and if we need to bring you in, I think we would invite you, but it would be quick. I can't imagine.
That's fine. That's fine. I just want to know if I should be staying around or if it's going to be bouncing around forever. That's all.
Well, when we get there, yours will be the first thing we talk about.
Thank you.
Okay. Yeah, in a minute. Or three.
Gary Veeder, South Point Turnpike, Pleasant Valley. First thing is, I've mentioned it many times before, and I know you've mentioned it to the state. The South Point Turnpike is a mess. It is a total mess. It's cost me money in tires already. One call, and I have called, but one person calling, maybe somebody else could call. That road is disgusting. You have to go down the middle of the road now. You really have to. It's dangerous. And if you drive a small car, you could swallow it in some of them. The other thing is, I guess, more personal than anything. But you already had an executive session for John Dunn. To make him go through another one, it just doesn't look right. Thank you.
Thank you. Mary Beth, did you want to get up and say a few words? I don't mean to jump anybody, but how was this feel good? What did you tell me today?
Mary Beth Muir, Town Clerk.
Please explain this.
I would like to read something to the town board. This is called a letter from a grateful mother. This past October, my daughter and her 2 children were turning off of Route 44 onto West Road in Pleasant Valley. As they were traveling up the hill, they were met head-on by an oncoming vehicle who came over the hill to find traffic backed up in his lane. In an effort not to rear-end the cars in front of him, he swerved into the other lane, and my daughter's oncoming vehicle, excuse me, hitting her head on, crushing the front of the vehicle, and pushing much of the engine into the driver's compartment. My daughter's feet were trapped, her hands badly lacerated. She was unable to get the door open. My grandchildren were buckled in the back seat and unable to unstrap themselves and unable to get out of the van. As everyone waited for the first responders, unbelievably, there were people beeping their horns in frustration as their trip home was being delayed, when suddenly a man appeared at my daughter's driver's window to help. At this point, the van was filling up with smoke, and my grandchildren were starting to panic. This gentleman was able to get to the back seat of the van and get the window open, lift my granddaughter through the window to safety. In seemingly an impossible feat, he then was able to bend the driver's side door open enough to get my daughter out. They were able to remove my grandson from his car seat as well. He stayed with them, made sure they moved and got moved to safety. Before he left, he was so kind enough to share his contact information in case they needed anything in the future. After the ambulance ride and an all-night stay in the emergency room, both my grandchildren were finally released with seatbelt abrasions, but no internal injuries. My daughter was stitched up, admitted, and put on 24-hour cervical watch. 2.5 months later, she is still healing, but all 3 are alive and doing well. It was an emotional holiday for me this year, thinking what might have been. I also have been so very thankful and have thought of the kind action of the stranger who took from his own time to help my family. I reached out to your town clerk, Mary Beth Muir, only to find out that Joseph Licari is your town photographer. Pleasant Valley should be very proud to have such a kind person representing your town. I want to thank Mr. Licari so very much for his assistance, and mostly for his kindness to my family. I will always be grateful for all that he has done. I wish him all good things. Donna McGrogan, Town Clerk, Hyde Park.
Wow. Thank you very much for
So
sharing
she
that.
wanted to share that
was that.
about
And
our
thank you,
town
Joe.
employee.
Excellent. If you, well, when you first hand this picture, it's not exactly what. Wow. Thank you, Mary Beth. It was a feel-good story. Excellent. All right. Anyone else? Who's going to follow that? Not seeing or hearing any, I move we close the meeting to the public.
Second.
All in favor?
Hi, can I be recognized quick before we go on? It kind of seemed to work before, so I'll make a motion to have a letter written on behalf of the supervisor and the town board to the New York State DOT, pointing out Mr. Veter's concerns about Salt Point Turnpike and
Certainly,
our
I'll write another one.
concerns. So,
That's not a problem.
Second.
All in favor?
aye. And then, just for Emily, do we have to make a motion to rescind his tabling properly of a resolution that was already tabled?
I think it's okay.
Okay.
One of them was new, and the other, they're two, a little bit different status, so I think we're okay.
So I'll make the motion, though, that we go into executive session for 101.5 F personnel.
Second, all in favor?
Aye.
Should we leave and come back, or should we ask them to leave?
Yeah, we should leave,
Yeah.
and then if we need to bring Mr. Dunn in, we'll do that.
And our town photographer.
So I can make a motion to come out of executive session?
You gotta turn your microphone on.
You didn't hear me?
They didn't.
I know they did. I'd like to make a motion to come out of executive session.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay. I'd like to make a motion to untable Resolution 148, 2023.
Second?
All in favor?
Aye. I'll make a motion to amend Resolution 148 of 2023 for the term expires. It currently says January 9th, 2028. We'll amend it to December 31st of 2027.
Second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
And all in favor for the Resolution 148?
Roll
As
call.
is, roll call, please.
Excuse me.
Just for the folks at home listening, this is to appoint John Dunn back on the Zoning Board of Appeals.
Councilwoman Albrecht?
Aye.
Councilman Mazzella?
Nay.
Councilman O'Hanlon?
Aye.
Councilman Reifenberg?
Aye.
Supervisor Delvecchio?
Aye.
Motion carries.
Okay. I'd like to make a motion to untable Resolution 133, 2023, appointing of Zoning Board Appeals Chair John Dunn.
Second?
All in favor?
A roll call?
Roll call.
Councilwoman Albrecht?
Aye.
Councilman Mazzella?
Nay.
Councilman O'Hanlon?
Aye.
Councilman Reifenberg?
Aye.
Supervisor Delvecchio?
Aye.
Motion carries.
And untable Resolution 147, 2023, appointment of alternate member to the Planning Board.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye. I make a motion that we,
Make a motion to go back into executive session?
Well, we only untabled this. We didn't vote on it yet, boss.
Oh, I'm sorry. We voted to untable it, okay. And this is to appoint alternate member to the Planning Board, Phil Iapicino. Do I have a motion?
it's already been motioned and seconded prior to tabling.
Okay.
Yes.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay.
I make a motion that we go into executive session for personnel.
Second. All in favor?
Aye.
We probably won't take any actions, so you folks don't have to hang around. Make a motion, we come out of executive session.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye, just for the record, let the time be known, it's 9:37.
Impressive. Make a motion to adjourn.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.